The organizing team started a little over a year ago and has put a heck of a lot of work into this to get us to this point where we can officially announce the campaign. So I wanted to introduce those guys in the event you might not know them. Kyle Largenbright, Kyle, you want to stand? Was president of the House in 05 and 06, was a regional director for SIGEP Nationals, and is our alumni board president right now. Ryan Mendlick, saw him earlier. Ryan was president of the House 02, 03, Ryan?
I think it's 506.
Oh, 506, oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
all right.
told you wrong.
Sorry, I mixed up my dates there. And Ryan is managing principal of Ironvine Capital. Matt Nyberg, who is CEO of Home Assistance and longtime member of the Alumni Board. And then Jeff Schumacher, who is president of Capital Guarantee in Lincoln and is traveling today and could not join us. But it's been fantastic working with these guys, completely dedicated. We've had a lot of fun, and we think we've got a fantastic project to share with you tonight. My name is Brad Knuth, for those of you who I've not yet met. In 1991, SIGEP Nationals adopted this iconic image that became the symbol of our Balanced Man project, Balanced Man program. And of course, as you all know, this is the Da Vinci's expression of man created by God in his fullest manifestation, the academic, the spiritual, and the physical. So it's a great symbol for the Balanced Man program, which for the last 20 plus years has really been the springboard built on our cardinal principles of the full development program that you would know now that makes our SIGEP undergraduates experience in their 4 years in the House. This is built on the success that every one of you were part of, and it's the part of the success that every one of you has a right to expect going forward in the future, and that of course is what this campaign is all about. The 21st century fraternity has a different set of expectations for the young men that we're recruiting and their parents, and the university that is our valued partner in higher education. Most of you know housing expectations of undergraduates and parents have risen dramatically. You know, the crappy little housing that we used to surround campus just does not exist anymore. And the alternatives, particularly for juniors and seniors, are some very nice residential suites. And it's essential that we keep those juniors and seniors in the house and that we raise our game. And we'll talk about how we're going to do that in detail a little bit. There has been for some time a greater emphasis on academic and personal development. And as you'll see, part of this campaign is to make sure that we continue to progress in those areas because it's a really important part of the experience of our brothers today and as we go forward. And then enhancing the brotherhood experience, you know, the social fraternity, so important to us, a big part of the memories that you have of the House. But also, you look around at your pledge brothers and the guys that you've remained close to for 10 or 20, or if you're Ross Heck, 50, 60 years since these guys were in the House. You talk to people who are, you know, independents, they just don't have that network. That brotherhood experience is really the core of what we leave the House with, and of course it never really leaves us. Part of that is retaining our juniors and seniors in the House. I'll bet virtually every one of you had a junior or senior who positively influenced you. It might have been, you know, he helped you get in one of the ASUN or get on a committee, or he helped you get an officership in the House, or he helped you with homework, or how do I get into law school? Who do I need to talk to get better plugged into, you know, CBA or some organization on campus? Might have even helped you get a date on a Friday night to a party. But that brotherhood experience is critical, and it's getting harder and harder to keep juniors and seniors in the House. And this isn't unique to SIGEP. This is across campus, and we want to make sure we do that, and we think we've got a very unique solution and approach that will clearly keep these young men in the House. I guess I've kind of made this case already. SIGEP is leading the way nationally and at UNL. Tremendously strong membership, tremendous alumni on-the-ground support, tremendous alumni support beyond that. Many of you remember our 02 campaign where we, you know, knocked it out of the park, spent a lot of money on wiring and asbestos and sprinklers and those things that you don't necessarily see, but are also helping us maximize this campaign into something that is really transformative. We've got unparalleled program. No one on campus can challenge it. Kyle's going to talk about it in a little bit, and we might hear from one of the undergraduates on their experience as well. And then developing tomorrow's leaders of our communities and businesses. There isn't a corner of this state that you can't find a SIGEP in a leadership position. And I was just told, this is great, tonight is the installation of the new ASU president into the Board of Regents. So we will now once again have 3 SIGEPs on the Board of Regents, Jim Pillen, Tim Clare, and Joe Zock. So SIGEP leaders all over this state. I want to call on Kyle, and he's going to walk you through SIGEP today, a few of our development programs, and then we'll get to the facility and other details.
Thanks, Brad. So the chapter today is as strong as it's ever been. We've got 136 members, always between a 3.35 and almost a 3.5 GPA. They're topping it out on campus. They're winning intramurals. We have guys in mortarboard, in Innocence, ASUN. But beyond that, we're sending guys to Harvard Business School, to med school, to law school on a pretty regular basis. So these kids are smart. We've got 2 here tonight, which I'll introduce later. We would have had more, but they all had some sort of test, or they had a philanthropy going tonight, stuff that we probably all would have skipped to be at an event like this, but they don't. So, not that these guys are leftovers by any means, but they're great guys. The house is... I know them well enough to say that. The house is dry. That's just a component that the university has enforced pretty hard, but it's also a great way to protect our investment. This happened right after the O2 campaign. The holes in the walls don't happen anymore. I think it was Burning's group took kegs out of the house. This group took alcohol out of the house completely. And that's just the norm on campus. So it creates a safe space for guys to live and live for 4 years. The house is debt-free. We've got a $900,000 budget, which Matt Nyberg manages expertly. Out of that, we pull a lot of funds for depreciation, just for deferred maintenance over time. But we also put a lot of money back into development of the undergraduates. So nationally, we're winning Buck Cups at the same pace that we always have. I think we've got the longest string of Buchanan Cup winners that we've had, or that exist in the nation. But the problem is the house is no longer a recruiting advantage when it comes to all of the other stuff that's going on campus and near campus. So the development program has 2 components, the Balanced Man program and the residential learning community. The Balanced Man program, believe it or not, was designed by experts in student development based upon best practices from our highest performing chapters in the late 80s to mid 90s. And this is to build a balanced man. So it's brotherhood development, intellectual development, physical development, leadership development, and professional development. And through that, particularly in the Lincoln area, we engage a lot of alumni for mentoring and just exposure to different part of the development program. The thing that's really setting the fraternity at Lincoln aside from any other chapter nationwide and any other really student development nationwide is this residential learning community. So this is modeled after the Oxford-style living learning communities where there was a faculty member that would live with the undergraduates. So in lieu of a faculty member, we have a resident scholar who's a graduate student in student affairs that serves as the house mother. They can provide expert guidance in terms of academic mentoring, but also just personal mentoring. And then we have a faculty fellow whose name is Dr. Deb Mullen. She's the Associate Dean of the College of Education and Human Sciences and a nationally renowned expert in residential learning communities who is engaged at our facility with our organization for probably 20 hours a week. If you count all the individual mentoring that she's doing beyond that, I think it might be her full-time job. And we compensate her for that because we know that relying upon someone's volunteer efforts is kind of a fool's errand when it's become such a critical component of our organization. So with this residential learning community, we've dedicated academic space, and we have exclusive classes taught through the UNL Honors Program for SIGEPs inside the facility. Need to be successful in college rather than potentially hitting a party every night for 4 or 5 years, which was okay, but I think it's a different time now. So the process thus far, this has been in the works for a while. The conversations have been there as we've seen just these different trends hit. So it started with an exploratory meeting about a year ago to identify what was possible and what was needed. Formed a group to spearhead the effort, and we evaluated potential space to build a new house or to expand our house. We tried buying the newers, and the stubborn newers would not sell. Newers. It might have been because of our relationship, I don't think so, but they're still stubborn. We tried buying the nurses' college, and they didn't want to sell. We tried buying the Lutheran Center, they didn't want to sell. We exhausted every option for gaining additional space and determined that our location was really a prime location, and it deserved maintaining that facility there. We also looked at the facility to determine whether or not it was a knockdown or a build-up, or a knockdown or a remodel, and Kevin will talk to that later, but we're in really good shape with this, the condition of the facility right now. So we've gained commitments from 32 alumni to service trustees and assist with the fundraising. We put out RFPs for everything that we've done so far. So we put out RFPs to architectural firms, selected Clark Architects. We had 3 or 4 different firms provide proposals, some from as far away as Denver that specialized in student housing, but we found what we thought was the best fit for our project. We've developed concepts, and we're just finalizing those concepts as best we can. We've got a general contractor, Dickey Hines Muir. They've got experience working with old buildings and restoration projects. And now we're launching the quiet phase. So I'll let Brad tell you a little bit more about that.
Okay, I'll just do a quick transition here over to Architect, but I want to make a quick comment on this. When we found this drawing and wanted to include it in the presentation, the representation I intended to make was to let you know that we were committed to keeping the architectural integrity of that beautiful house. Okay, that was line number 1 in our RFP to the architects. Maintain the architectural integrity of the house because it's a beautiful house and extremely well built. But the more I kind of reflected on this, I started to think, well, this was built 1929, 1930. Our house was founded in 1911, and that means that when this house was built, we only had several dozen alumni. Now just think for a moment about the commitment that these people, come on in fellas, have a seat if you want, or think about the commitment these guys made to get this thing done. It's humbling, and it's super impressive. So what I'd like to do now is introduce Kevin Clark from Clark Architects Collaborative 3, and Kevin will walk you through the facility addition and renovation.
Drawings are dated 1929. So when this was built, if we track it back, they started drawing all of this and planning this whole building before the stock market crashed. Things were high and they were doing great. All of a sudden, 1929, that fall, stock market crashes, and everything would have bad. Either they would have stalled and not built the house, or they would have come back and budget cutted it to death. As we drill into this, they changed nothing at that point. That's huge. I'm sure everybody in this room has been involved in some sort of project where the budget got tight, and what do you do? Value engineer. You start cutting everything you can to lower the cost. It happens all the time. They didn't cut a thing. There's a steel frame inside this building. Part of the way that it's survived all of you over this many years. And there's only been a couple things that have cracked in the entire, almost 100-year lifespan of it. But it's amazing that they didn't change the path. So they stayed with that initial investment, and we can see that throughout, whether it's bricks and mortar, or all the educational programs, or the development programs. You're doing the right thing, and the university, honestly, I can tell you, loves you guys, because that's not happening everywhere else. And they can see the products. They can see how you take USN, or ASUN. They can see how you're involved in everything on campus, and they track the fact that you're graduating. That's huge. That's the biggest problem on a state university campus. How do you get kids to graduate? Well, if you can keep them on campus longer, better chance of graduation, and that's where this project really leads. How do we keep upperclassmen committed and living into the house? And how do we make this a standout building today, just like it was in 1929? How do we make that today on our campus? This campus and the university and all the fraternities and sororities are in a tough spot right now because in our city we've overbuilt, low budget, but looks really nice student housing. And so these kids can go move off campus after their freshman year into houses that look initially better than probably some of us have lived in at times. And because it's overbuilt, all the costs are coming down. So there's a lot of open rooms. So they keep dropping the costs, and so there's a lot of incentive. There's a financial incentive. Plus, there's no rules. The one that's across from the new dorm, the police just park there at night on Friday and Saturday nights now. They don't even wait for a call because they know the call's going to come. So that's the kind of environment that these people can go, all these students can go live in. Well, let's give them something to counter that. So when we saw this, and we agreed completely during the RFP process, we couldn't do anything that would impact or change the beauty, the character, the quality of the original house. But we also knew that we needed to grow it dramatically. So the original house is 14,500 square feet. The addition we're going to show you tonight adds another 7,000 square feet to the building. That's a dramatic increase. There's no other fraternity or sorority on campus that's added that much square footage to their original building. And why are we doing it? Honestly, when we came to the table, the thought was, you've got to get your room count up so you can make more money. In the end, every time I've tried to add a bed or make this more profit-oriented, these guys, your committee, have stopped us and said, that's not what we're all about. We're going to only add 4 beds in this process. We're going to go from 76 beds to 80. That's it. So you start doing the math. Right now, every man in that building has 67 square feet of space. So if you stretch your arms out, spin around, that is your living space, 67 square feet. Now we're sending them to Uganda to study and all of that. They're probably running into similar square footage requirements of housing in those countries as well. So we're going to make a big shift there. By adding all this additional square footage, we're going from 67 average per square feet per student in living space up to 120 average. Now all of a sudden we're going to start to visually compete with all of our adjacent off-campus housing. That'll be a big change. But we wanted to make sure that everybody who walked up to this house, when they look at it, would say, that's still Sagat. That's still home. That's still my house. So all of the character and all of those details that were in the original 1929 building, in the 67 edition, we're bringing forward. So in this image, this is still the 67 edition facade. But everything to your left or to the south, that's all new. So a big change visually to the house, but we're retaining all of that character, all that tradition. From the south, the only piece that you'd see that's still existing are the light terracotta pieces there. All of that is a new addition to the south. So the existing basement, now all of a sudden we're going to come and add out to the east and to the south. We're going to gain additional pantry space for the cook. The meals that he provides are amazing, and the square footage he does it makes it miraculous. But you could make it a much more easy process to produce the meals that he can if we can give him a little more square footage. So we're going to have a new pantry, a walk-in cooler and freezer, which will allow weekly deliveries instead of daily deliveries. So that's going to help on our cost per plate. We're going to come in, the old dining room. We're going to double the space of the dining room. So now all of a sudden on Monday nights, we're not going to be all shoulder to shoulder. We're going to have space to breathe. We're going to be able to have guests come to dinner and still all seat in the same dining room. And then a new computer and TV lab and or kind of social space to the south there as well. That'll be down a couple steps, so we'll be able to have, we're going to have monitors on these walls. So for football Saturday, we'll have tiered seating, we'll have the surround sound, and it'll be a great social place, whether it's for that or for meetings or anything else. Now all of a sudden you have a draw. People want to come to your house to have meetings and such because you've got a great facility. First floor, as she exists today, to just get a wayfinding, so that's the original 29 building right here. In 67 added the north addition, and now we're going to add south and east. We honestly would have added farther south, but if you draw a line right across here, that's the UNL steam tunnel. So we're going to build right next to it. We're going to build right up to it, no space in between. And so we're taking every possible inch that's buildable to the south as well as out to the east. In that area, the original chapter room is going to double in size. So now these classes that Deb's teaching, that when she puts the whole group together, has to go back on campus to teach, now could stay in the house. To the front, a formal library and study space. The number of meetings we have there where we can't find a place to sit is incredible. So the guys, when we asked them, also they'd much rather stay and study in the house if they could. Well, if you go look at what we're competing against for study space on UNL's campus, they're putting huge dollars into that. You know, high-tech, modern, multimedia study spaces in the new library renovation. These guys would rather stay here if they can. Well, if they stay here, all the better. Now we get more mentorship and more camaraderie. So a nice formal library space, additional lounge space and offices. And then in the 67 edition, we're going to go up and we're going to update all of those bathrooms, update the showers as we go up through there. On the second and third floor, they mirror. They're the same. This is where we start to gain that from 67 square feet per person to now about 120 square feet per person. So we're going to create, some of the rooms will remain the same, but the others gain 2-bedroom bed suites, so a bunk bed, their own closet, a door, and then those suites then tie to a common study space, of which then ties back to the main corridor. When we asked these guys, well, what should we be planning, you know, private showers, private bathrooms, they honestly laughed at us and just said, we understand that costs more money. Why would you spend money on that when we could just develop, you know, better study space, better living space? And so every time we've tried to add things like that to the project, the actives and or your committee have said, let's find a way to make this more economical. Let's not spend it on those things, the nice to haves, let's spend it on the essentials. So each of these rooms now then will be fully modern. So we're going to have all of the life safety requirements involved in that. They each get a bed area and a study area. And having those study areas designated also helps us on the tax exempt status of the addition. So you're going to be able to make your donations as a charitable donation, as opposed on past projects we've had to split those numbers. Fourth floor is going to look a lot different. So anybody lived on fourth floor at some point? You'll now have if you want to move back in, you'll now have a bath and shower on that floor. You'll have 2 toilets, 2 showers, and 2 sinks up on that level. So part of this is we looked at why are guys, you know, moving off their junior and senior years, just having, you know, just having those amenities was something that they mentioned. The rest of that floor will be split into 2 suites. And so there'll be 4-man suites, just like it is today. We have 8 guys living up there now. But they'll have a living space in the yellow, a bedroom space, windows out to the south, and we're working still with the structural engineer to actually make this front suite grow into the dormer as well. So they're going to be very fun and exciting places to live compared to kind of the way they are now.
Thank you very much. A couple of things I want to mention in this. As part of the process, we met with the undergrads and listened very carefully to what they wanted, and you would have been so impressed. You know, their top things were, you know, expand dining. We want to be able to eat together. Expand the study space. We like being here. We want to study in the house. Little things like, could you guys have like water dispensers on each floor? Could we like get faster wireless? It was all very modest and very appropriate things. And in fact, as we were looking through second and third floor, you know, our idea was, why not take these bathrooms all the way to the top? And half the guys said, oh, that'd be great. And the other guy, half of the guys said, we don't need it. Don't save your money. So they were really instrumental in helping us think through some of these things. And I think if there were a bunch of undergrads in the room, they would say we've really hit the marks on designing a facility that they really would embrace and really love living in. So here we are, a campaign for the second century of our house. The way this breaks down is about $3 million for the expansion and renovation that you've just seen. Programming of about $750,000, including funding the residential learning community, leadership, ethics, entrepreneurship programs, and of course our SIGEP national programs that we're involved in, and then $750,000 for resources for the faculty fellow and resident scholar. Very robust campaign, and really addresses all of our needs and sets our house up magnificently for another couple of generations of real success. So 3 phases as we launch this campaign. I don't know how many of you are aware that we had a bequest of $1.5 million from Glenn Korf, led by our Educational Foundation trustees that I'll talk about in just a minute. We think we'll be able to raise $2 million, and then we'll have a public phase where it'll be a letter writing campaign. We'll send people to our website. There'll be a little hand-to-hand combat. We'll ask all of you to be part of that, to invite your fellow pledge brothers to be part of this campaign, make sure everybody knows about it, make sure everybody's plugged in, make sure everybody's got their questions answered and has a chance to participate in that letter writing campaign. Will be facilitated by the University of Nebraska Foundation. I want to mention that the reason that this meeting is being facilitated and that the organizational committee was formed early on was that we made the decision that we were not going to use an outside fundraising organization. We felt like the strength of this brotherhood and your commitment to SIGEP was sufficient that we'd be able to save about $180,000 to $200,000 by doing this campaign ourselves. So in order to do that, we reached out to 32 committed brothers from all generations of the house and asked them if they would first help us identify and make the ask for leadership gifts of $100,000. I'm very pleased that just since we wanted to report that since March 1st, we've gained 4 commitments of $100,000. The Adams brothers, who have been, so instrumental in SIGEP, have committed $100,000. We've got another one that's anonymous, and we've got 2 others that will be announced shortly. These are all kind of brothers or dads and sons who have been in the house. We've raised about it'll be about $700,000 now of our goal of $3 million, and we just had a meeting Wednesday, and we're having this meeting tonight. So we're thrilled at the launch that we've had and the calls that we've gotten. It's just been incredibly gratifying. We've asked each of these trustees to either raise or give a total of $50,000. And I want to just say for a moment, this isn't everybody's cup of tea to be out asking for money. It makes some guys really uncomfortable. So when you get that email or when you get that call, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. Just remember, you're on their team. What we're asking them to do is a lot. And I can assure you, there's a few of them on this list that you'll see in a moment. This is not easy for them. But the fact that they're committed to SIGEP, and I know all of you will be there to support them, help them, get the message out to other guys, means everything. And then we'll start an annual trustee meeting just so we can, through them, keep them closer to the house, and through them, keep all of you closer to the house. Because we think this is just a great launching point for us to all really, deepen and entrench our meaning, what this place means to us. As I said, we launched on March 1st with some conference calls. I should apologize to some of the trustees that are in the room because they've now heard this story 4 or 5 times, so they're probably getting worn out by my talking. Hosted gatherings in Lincoln, and we'll do one in western Nebraska. Between now and April 30th, we will be following up with personal asks. I know what it means to be asked for you to make a meaningful commitment. We know that we won't be able to get to everybody, but know that we need your help and how deeply appreciated it is. On May 1, we need to make a commitment to our architect that this is a go or no-go decision, because if we start the day after the boys move out of the house on May 8th or 9th, we have 16 months to do this project. They will be living in the house while construction's going on. Safety was a big part of the reason that we chose the general contractor that we chose, and it'll be done by the fall of 2018, and we'll have a great gathering of all the alums to see what we built and celebrate it a little bit. What that means to me is that there is no decision. We're SIGEPs, right? This is going to happen, but it's only going to happen with all of you participating in a meaningful way. On or about June 1st, we'll launch that public phase that I talked about just a minute ago. Here's a list of the trustees. I want to give them my deepest appreciation. I hope you will as well. It's just great to see all the pledge classes kind of coming in packs. Medlock called me, Argenbright called me, Mendlick got me here. You know, Bruning's, some of you saw his email the other day. It was just hilarious. It's really great. And it is, I told these trustees, you're going to have some disappointments along the way. You'll have a couple of guys who might not return your phone call, who might not return your email, but you will also be incredibly gratified by all the relationships you'll rekindle and some of the guys who will call you up and give to this campaign in a way that will just be incredibly gratifying. So do me a favor and thank these guys when you see them for what they're doing. Gifting options, we are entertaining 2 or 3 year pledges. If you go back to what I said earlier about saving a couple $100,000 and doing this campaign personally, obviously we don't want that money to leak back out in interest expense as we go into the construction phase. So the more money that we can front end load helps us reduce our interest expense as we're collecting pledges down the road. But we also want to make sure that we have 3 year pledges to accommodate guys who might want to do a little more if they can spread it out over 3 years, and particularly to accommodate the young guys who want to participate and they can do something a little more meaningful if we spread the pledge commitment out over 3 years. We'll make it as easy as we can. Send your checks payable to that address. It's all in the email. If you haven't gotten this presentation by email, give me your email address. We'll get it to you tomorrow. And for some of you who might have been participating in the Trump rally and you want to give some securities where you've got some appreciation, the University Foundation has an account in our name, and we will have, and I've already had, some gifted securities for people who want to gift away that appreciation and get the full tax deduction for it. Matt Nyberg put this in, and I would urge you to take the time to read it. It's beautifully written, it's meaningful, and every one of you said these words, and they're powerful. So I urge you to go back and take a look at it and reflect on what this campaign might mean to you as you think about your SIGEP experience and what it means to be one of the guys who's going to help create that experience for the guys for the next 100 years. So I'll just wrap up with this, and then we're going to take Q&A, and Kevin will join me up here and answer any questions that you have. But this was a logo that I saw in a SIGEP national magazine, and it just blew me away because it kind of perfectly expressed what I had been feeling about what SIGEP is becoming. We have always been a valued partner, brother, to a young man entering the house. But more and more, we are becoming a valued partner in higher education to parents who are entrusting the future of their sons to us. And we are becoming a valued partner in higher education to the university that we represent. This is what they're looking fraternities to become. And there is no other house on the University of Nebraska-Lincoln campus that can match us in this realm. Okay? So thank you all for being here tonight, and let's open it up for questions, conversation, and maybe even have another cocktail or two.